Picture this: you're hacking through dense jungle vines, the air thick with humidity, when suddenly the trees part to reveal towering stone walls covered in moss. Or maybe you're crossing an endless desert, the sand shifting beneath your feet, when your boot strikes something solid, a carved pillar, half buried for centuries. These aren't scenes from an adventure movie. They're real moments when explorers stumbled upon the impossible, cities that should never have existed. Places so remote, so improbable, that their very existence rewrites history. From the overgrown temples of the Maya to the sunken ruins of ancient Egypt, these lost cities defy logic, whispering secrets of civilizations that thrived where no one thought they could. What drives humans to build in the most unforgiving corners of the earth? Why would anyone carve a metropolis into a cliff face or bury a kingdom beneath the waves? The answers are as mysterious as the cities themselves. Some sought refuge from invaders, others chased spiritual visions, and a few may have simply dared to conquer the impossible. Their stories aren't just about stone and mortar, they're about ambition, ingenuity, and the relentless human spirit that refuses to be bound by geography or circumstance. These ruins aren't just relics, they're puzzles, each one daring us to unravel how and why they came to be. And here's the thrilling part: we're still finding them. Thanks to cutting-edge technology and old-fashioned curiosity, new discoveries are rewriting history books faster than ever. Satellite imagery reveals grid lines beneath jungle canopies, while ground-penetrating radar uncovers entire neighborhoods under farmland. Every unearthed wall or artifact chips away at our assumptions, proving that the past is far stranger and more spectacular than we ever imagined. So join me as we map these impossible cities, from the cloud forests of Peru to the deserts of Syria. Together, we'll walk the streets of places the world forgot and uncover the astonishing truths behind the legends. The journey starts now. There's something irresistible about a city lost to time. It's not just the crumbling stones or the artifacts left behind, it's the stories they whisper. Think about the thrill of finding an old diary in an attic, its pages filled with secrets. Now imagine that diary is an entire metropolis, its streets frozen in silence. From the moment early explorers brought back tales of vine-choked temples and gold-laden palaces, the world has been hooked. These aren't just ruins, they're time capsules, offering a glimpse into lives lived centuries or even millennia ago. Take Eldorado, for example. What began as a rumor among Spanish conquistadors, a king who coated himself in gold dust, morphed into a legend of an entire city gleaming with treasure. Centuries of expeditions failed to find it, but the dream never faded. And then there's Atlantis, Plato's doomed island kingdom, said to have vanished beneath the waves in a single day. These stories persist because they tap into something primal, the allure of the undiscovered, the tantalizing possibility that somewhere just beyond our reach lies a place of unimaginable wonder. But here's the twist: many of these legends turn out to have roots in reality. When British explorer Percy Fawcett vanished into the Amazon in 1925, he was chasing a city he called Z, inspired by indigenous accounts of stone ruins deep in the jungle. Decades later, satellite imagery revealed vast settlements hidden under the canopy, proving that the Amazon wasn't the untouched wilderness everyone assumed. Similarly, the mythical city of Troy was long dismissed as pure fiction, until archaeologists dug into a hillside in Turkey and found layer upon layer of ancient walls, just as Homer described. What makes these places so magnetic isn't just their mystery, It's the way they shatter our assumptions. A city in the middle of a desert, a metropolis perched on a mountaintop. These aren't just feats of engineering, they're acts of defiance. They prove that humans have always pushed boundaries, adapting to the harshest environments with astonishing creativity. The ruins of Petra, carved into rose-red cliffs, or the cliffside dwellings of Mesa Verde, weren't built for convenience. They were statements. We can thrive here against all odds. And then there's the eerie beauty of Abandonment. Walking through Angkor Wat at sunrise with mist curling around its towers, or standing in the echoing halls of Great Zimbabwe's stone citadel, you can't help but wonder, what happened here? Why did people leave? These silent cities are like unfinished sentences, inviting us to fill in the blanks. Whether it was war, climate change, or some forgotten catastrophe, their emptiness speaks louder than any history book. That's the real magic of lost cities. They're not just relics, they're mirrors. They reflect our own curiosity, our hunger for discovery, and our stubborn belief that there's always something more to find. Every overgrown pyramid, every sunken harbor, is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It's just waiting for someone to look in the right place. Standing at the edge of a sheer cliff, staring down at a valley swallowed by jungle, it's hard to imagine anyone choosing to build here, let alone carve an entire city from solid rock. Yet that's exactly what the Nabateans did when they created Petra over 2,000 years ago. This isn't just architecture, it's defiance etched in stone. Across the globe, from the cloud-veiled peaks of the Andes to the scorching deserts of the Middle East, ancient builders looked at landscapes that would make modern engineers pause and said, "This will do." The result, cities that cling to cliffs, burrow underground, or sprawl across terrain so hostile their very existence feels like a taunt to logic. Take Machu Picchu. Perched nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, its terraces seem to float between mountain and sky. Every stone had to be hauled up narrow, winding paths, no wheels, no pack animals suited for the altitude. So why bother? The Incas weren't just showing off. This wasn't a vanity project. The location offered something priceless: security. Hidden among the peaks, invisible from below, it became a sanctuary for royalty and priests. The thin air that leaves modern visitors gasping, to the Inca, it was a natural moat, and the terraces that cascade down the slopes weren't just artistic flourishes, they were survival. By sculpting the mountainside into stepped gardens, they created microclimates to grow food at impossible altitudes. Then there's Derinkuyu, Turkey's underground labyrinth. Picture a honeycomb of tunnels and chambers plunging 18 stories deep, housing up to 20,000 people. Ventilation shafts ensured fresh air reached even the lowest levels, while massive rolling stones could seal off passages in seconds. This wasn't a temporary hideout, it was a self-sufficient metropolis beneath the earth. Historians believe its builders, the Phrygians, carved it as a refuge from invading armies or extreme surface temperatures. Imagine the coordination required: engineers planning airflow, stonemasons working in near darkness, communities thriving without sunlight for months. It's a masterclass in adaptation, but perhaps the most baffling of all is Nan Madol, a city built atop coral reefs in the Pacific Ocean. Its builders hauled basalt logs weighing up to 50 tons across open water, stacking them like Lincoln logs to create over 90 artificial islands. No metal tools, no pulleys, just ingenuity and sheer willpower. The local legend claims magic levitated the stones, but the truth is even more remarkable. Archaeologists suggest they used bamboo rafts and tidal patterns, timing their movements with the ocean's rhythm. Why go to such lengths? Isolation offered protection, yes, but also spiritual power. This was a place where chiefs communed with gods, where the boundary between land and sea, and perhaps mortal and divine, blurred. What unites these impossible cities isn't just their audacious locations, but the reasons behind them. Defense was a factor, but so was symbolism. A temple atop a mountain isn't just harder to attack, it's closer to the heavens. A city beneath the earth isn't just sheltered, it's a portal to the underworld. These weren't random choices, they were statements written in geography. When the Nabateans carved Petra's treasury into a cliff face, the rose-red stone catching fire at dawn, they weren't just building a tomb. They were crafting a spectacle, ensuring visitors would never forget who ruled this unforgiving land. The real wonder isn't that these places exist, it's that their builders saw potential where we'd see only obstacles. They didn't have drones to survey terrain or software to model stress loads. They had observation, patience, and an intimate dialogue with their environment. Every curve of a terrace followed the mountain's contours. Every tunnel in Derinkuyu respected the rock's natural fractures. These cities weren't imposed on the landscape, they emerged from it, as if the earth itself whispered the blueprint. That's the lesson etched into these stones. Impossibility is just a matter of perspective. Long before satellites or GPS, ancient cartographers sketched coastlines and cities with surprising accuracy, details modern scholars once dismissed as fantasy. The Vinland map, drawn in the 15th century, depicts part of North America labeled Vinland, a land Norse sagas described as rich with grapes. For years, historians debated its authenticity, until archaeological digs in Newfoundland uncovered a Viking settlement at Eldorado Meadows, proving the Norse reached the New World 5 centuries before Columbus. Suddenly, a map once mocked as fiction became a vital clue, rewriting the timeline of transatlantic exploration. Equally baffling are the medieval accounts of Great Zimbabwe, a sprawling stone city in southern Africa. When Portuguese traders first heard tales of its towers and gold, they assumed it must be the biblical kingdom of Sheba or some foreign outpost. The idea that local Africans could engineer such structures seemed impossible to colonial minds. Yet when explorers finally reached the site in the late 19th century, they found reality matching the old stories: massive granite walls, intricate drainage systems, and artifacts confirming a thriving indigenous civilization. The very descriptions once ridiculed as exaggerations turned out to be blueprints for rediscovery. What makes these records so tantalizing is their blend of precision and mystery. Take the Pirry Rise Map of 1513, which shows Antarctica's coastline centuries before the continent was officially discovered. How could an Ottoman admiral have charted land buried under miles of ice? Some speculate he copied even older sources, perhaps from ancient seafarers whose knowledge was later lost. Others argue it's mere coincidence, but the map's uncanny details, like the Andes Mountains drawn where no European had yet ventured, suggest fragments of forgotten geography preserved through time. Then there's the Dura Europos parchment, a Roman-era scroll describing a city of brass in the Syrian desert. Scholars long considered it allegorical until excavations revealed Palmyra's actual brass inlaid temples matching the text. These aren't just lucky guesses, they're echoes of oral histories and observations passed down generations. Indigenous cultures, from the Maya to Aboriginal Australians, encoded landscape knowledge in songlines and star charts, creating living maps that guided explorers to sacred sites or water sources. When modern researchers finally listen, they often find science aligning with tradition. The lesson here isn't just that ancient people knew more than we credited, it's that myth and fact often share roots. A city described as floating on clouds might be Machu Picchu's mist-shrouded terraces. A golden temple sunk beneath waves could reflect Venice like Nan Madol's tidal floods. These stories aren't lies, they're translations shaped by time and memory. Today's archaeologists treat them as puzzles, cross-referencing folklore with LiDAR scans or pollen samples to separate metaphor from topography. Perhaps the most humbling realization: many lost cities remain hidden simply because we stopped believing they were real. The jungle-clad ruins of Cambodia's Mohenjo-Daro, described in 7th century Khmer texts, were rediscovered in 2012 after aerial surveys confirmed what locals had always known: the Mountain Kingdom existed. As technology peels back layers of earth and doubt, we're learning that the best map to these impossible places might have been in front of us all along, etched in vellum, sung in chants, or whispered in the stubborn tales of those who never forgot. For centuries, explorers relied on machetes and luck to uncover lost cities, hacking through jungles one painful mile at a time. Today, the game has changed entirely, not with bigger blades but with beams of light. LiDAR technology, which stands for light detection and ranging, works like a high-tech X-ray for landscapes. Mounted on planes or drones, it fires millions of laser pulses toward the ground, penetrating thick foliage to map the terrain beneath. When researchers first used it over the Guatemalan rainforest, the results were staggering. What appeared to be untouched wilderness from the ground revealed an entire Maya megalopolis, over 60,000 structures hidden under the canopy, including pyramids, causeways, and even agricultural terraces. Suddenly, we weren't just finding lost cities, we were rediscovering entire civilizations. But LiDAR isn't the only tool rewriting history. Satellite imagery has become archaeology's eagle-eyed ally, spotting subtle clues invisible from the ground. In the deserts of Iraq, analysts noticed strange discolorations in crop fields patterns that, when excavated, turned out to be the walls of ancient Assyrian cities buried for millennia. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar peers beneath sand or soil like an ultrasound, revealing buried streets and foundations without lifting a single shovel. In Turkey, this technology uncovered a sprawling underground city beneath Nevşehir, its tunnels large enough to house 20,000 people. Derinkuyu rival in scale. The real magic happens when these tools collaborate. Take the search for Cleopatra's tomb near Alexandria. Satellite data identified promising subsurface anomalies. LiDAR mapped the coastal erosion that may have hidden the site, and underwater drones scoured the Mediterranean floor for collapsed chambers. While the tomb remains elusive, the process itself is revolutionary. It's like assembling a cosmic jigsaw puzzle where each piece comes from a different dimension of detection. Even humble tech plays a role. Photogrammetry software stitches thousands of drone photos into 3D models, letting archaeologists walk through ruins digitally. In Petra, this revealed hidden water channels carved into cliff faces, an ancient engineering feat invisible to the naked eye. Meanwhile, AI sifts through excavation data to spot patterns humans might miss, like predicting where undiscovered Maya ball courts likely sit based on their relation to known temples. Yet for all our gadgets, some truths still emerge the old-fashioned way. In the Amazon, indigenous tribes guided researchers to massive earthworks their ancestors built, structures outsiders had dismissed as folklore. Technology didn't replace traditional knowledge, it validated it. As one archaeologist put it, the forest never forgot what we did. What's next? Quantum sensors could one day detect buried artifacts by their atomic signatures, while swarms of nanodrones might map caves too dangerous for humans. But perhaps the most thrilling prospect isn't just finding new cities, it's redefining what a city even means. Recent LiDAR scans in Cambodia revealed not just temples, but vast low-density urban sprawls with intricate water management. These weren't ceremonial centers, they were sustainable metropolises challenging Eurocentric ideas of civilization. Every scan, every pixel whispers the same truth. History isn't just buried, it's waiting to be seen through new eyes. Rising from the turquoise waters of the Pacific like a mirage, Nan Madol defies every expectation of what an ancient city should be. 92 artificial islands stretch across the coral reefs, each one built not with sand or wood, but with colossal basalt logs, some weighing as much as 50 tons. These stones aren't stacked haphazardly, they're arranged in precise crisscross patterns like a giant's game of Lincoln logs frozen in time. The scale alone is staggering, but the real mystery lies in the how. How did builders without metal tools or wheels transport these monoliths across miles of open ocean? Local oral traditions tell of twin sorcerers, Olisipa and Olisopa, who levitated the stones with magic. While science dismisses the supernatural, the truth might be just as extraordinary. Archaeologists now believe the builders used the tides themselves as a tool. Picture this: basalt logs lashed to bamboo rafts, floated during high tide, and guided into place as the water receded. It's a theory supported by the rhythmic way the islands align with tidal channels, nature's invisible highways. But even this explanation raises questions. The basalt came from quarries over 25 miles away, requiring not just engineering skill, but an intimate knowledge of currents, weather patterns, and lunar cycles. This wasn't brute force, it was a delicate dance with the ocean, a collaboration between human ambition and the sea's own rhythms. Then there's the question of why. Why choose this labyrinth of shallow reefs instead of solid ground? Some argue Nan Madol was a fortress, its watery moats deterring invaders. Others see it as a ceremonial nexus, where chiefs communed with spirits in the liminal space between land and sea. The most compelling clues lie in the architecture itself. The largest island, Nandowas, holds a tomb lined with towering walls, suggesting this was a city of the dead, a sacred resting place for elites. Nearby, the echoing chambers of the House of the Eels hint at rituals tied to the ocean's bounty. The more you study Nan Madol, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't just a settlement. It was a statement, a place where power and spirituality merged with the raw forces of nature. Yet for all its grandeur, Nan Madol's abandonment remains as enigmatic as its construction. By the time European explorers arrived in the 19th century, the city was already a ghostly shell, its canals choked with mangroves. Some blame warfare or dwindling resources, but local legends speak of a curse, a punishment for disrespecting the gods. Today, the ruins hum with an eerie energy. Fish dart through submerged courtyards, and the wind whistles through stone corridors that once echoed with chants. Nan Madol doesn't just challenge our understanding of ancient engineering. It forces us to reckon with the fragility of even the most awe-inspiring civilizations. The stones may have outlasted their builders, but they whisper a warning. Nothing, not even magic or mastery, lasts forever. Beneath the fairy tale landscape of Cappadocia, where wind-sculpted rock formations tower like something from a dream, lies a hidden world far stranger than anything above ground. Derinkuyu isn't just a cave or a tunnel. It's an entire underground metropolis descending 18 stories deep into the earth, a labyrinth of chambers, stairwells, and ventilation shafts that could shelter up to 20,000 people. Picture a city with bakeries, wineries, chapels, and even livestock pens, all carved by hand from volcanic rock over 2,000 years ago. The precision is staggering. Circular stone doors weighing half a ton could roll shut to seal off entire sections, while vertical shafts funneled fresh air to the lowest levels, creating a breathable environment even during prolonged sieges. This wasn't a temporary refuge, it was a self-sustaining civilization beneath the soil. So why go to such extremes? One compelling theory points to the region's turbulent history. Cappadocia sat at the crossroads of empires, vulnerable to raids by Persians, Mongols, and later Arab armies. When scouts spotted dust clouds on the horizon, a telltale sign of approaching cavalry, the entire population could vanish underground within hours. The massive stone doors, fitted with grooves that only opened from the inside, made infiltration nearly impossible. But survival wasn't just about defense. The subterranean world offered stability. Summer temperatures in Cappadocia can soar above 100 degrees, while winters plunge below freezing. Underground, the temperature remains a constant 55 degrees year-round, a natural climate control system that preserved food and comfort. The engineering feats here border on the miraculous. Ventilation shafts, some stretching over 100 feet upward, were angled to create airflow without revealing the city's location. Wells tapped into underground rivers, ensuring fresh water even during droughts, and the builders understood geology intimately. They followed natural fault lines in the soft volcanic rock, expanding existing caves into a cohesive network. Some tunnels connected to other underground cities, like Kamakli, 8 miles away, suggesting a kind of subway system for emergencies. The scale of coordination implies a society with advanced governance, possibly the early Christians or even the Phrygians, though no inscriptions definitively confirm their identity. What's most haunting about Derinkuyu isn't just its scale, but the glimpse it offers into daily life under extraordinary circumstances. In the dim glow of oil lamps, families would have gathered in rock-cut kitchens, their walls blackened by centuries of smoke. Children's handprints preserved in the soft stone hint at generations raised in this twilight world. The churches, with crosses chiseled into alcoves, reveal a community clinging to faith amid the darkness. And then there are the stables, proof that even underground, life carried on. Animals were kept on lower levels, their body heat helping to warm the chambers above, while their waste was funneled into pits to fertilize crops when it was safe to resurface. The city's abandonment remains as mysterious as its origins. By the 14th century, Durin-Kuyu lay empty, its tunnels silent. Some blame the rise of more stable empires, reducing the need for hiding, while others speculate earthquakes collapsed critical passages. But walking its corridors today, the ingenuity of its builders is undeniable. This wasn't just a hole in the ground, it was a testament to human adaptability. A place where an entire culture chose to bend the earth itself to their will rather than surrender to the chaos above. Derinkuyu doesn't just challenge our ideas about ancient technology. It forces us to reconsider what people will do to preserve their way of life when the world above becomes unbearable. And in that, it feels unsettlingly modern. Deep in the impenetrable rainforests of Honduras, where the canopy blots out the sun and howler monkeys shatter the silence, lies a place so hidden it was considered pure myth for centuries. The so-called lost city of the monkey god, known locally as La Ciudad Blanca, the White City, was long dismissed as just another jungle fable. Indigenous tribes spoke of a magnificent settlement where their ancestors lived among stone temples and jaguar statues, a place abandoned to the vines long before Europeans arrived. But unlike Eldorado or Atlantis, this legend turned out to be startlingly real. The breakthrough came in 2012 when a team using airborne LiDAR spotted unnatural geometric shapes beneath the dense foliage. What they found on the ground was nothing short of extraordinary, a sprawling complex of plazas, pyramids, and over 50 ceremonial artifacts untouched for centuries. Among them was a cache of stone vessels carved with serpent motifs, a half-buried effigy of a wood jaguar, and a ceremonial seat shaped like a vulture, objects that hinted at rituals unlike anything seen in known Mesoamerican cultures. The most chilling discovery, a burial site where the bones showed no signs of violence, yet were scattered as if the dead had been left where they fell. This wasn't just another Maya outpost. The architecture, the artifacts, even the layout of the city suggested something far more enigmatic, a society that developed in total isolation, with no clear ties to the Aztec, Maya, or Olmec civilizations. The pottery styles matched nothing in archaeological records, and the stonework showed techniques previously unseen in the region. Radiocarbon dating placed its peak between 1000 and 1400 CE, a time when nearby cultures were already interconnected through trade. How did this city remain so utterly separate? Theories about its downfall are just as compelling. Unlike other abandoned cities where warfare or conquest left clear marks, the White City shows no evidence of invasion. Instead, soil samples reveal something subtler, a catastrophic shift in climate. Pollen analysis indicates the surrounding rainforest suddenly shrank around 600 years ago, replaced by dry grassland. Combine that with the skeletal remains showing signs of malnutrition, and a picture emerges of a people doomed by their own success. The very isolation that protected them may have been their undoing when drought struck. They had no trade networks to fall back on, no allies to call for aid. What makes this discovery truly paradigm-shifting isn't just the city itself, but what it says about the Americas before Columbus. For decades, scholars assumed the jungles of Central America were too harsh to support large settlements without outside influence. The White City proves otherwise, a thriving culture that mastered its environment, then vanished without passing its knowledge to neighbors. Every artifact here whispers the same humbling truth. History isn't a single story, but countless threads, some so fragile they disappear before we even notice they exist. And in the tangled heart of Honduras, one of those threads has finally been found. One night in the winter of 373 BC, the bustling Greek city of Helike simply ceased to exist. According to ancient accounts, the ground shook violently before the entire coastline collapsed, dragging temples, houses, and thousands of residents into the churning waters of the Gulf of Corinth. Within hours, where a thriving port once stood, there was only sea. So complete was the devastation that rescue boats found nothing but debris and corpses bobbing in the waves. The disaster was so shocking that Greek writers like Strabo and Pausanias described it as divine punishment, claiming Poseidon himself had unleashed his fury on the city for sacrilege. For centuries, Helike became a cautionary tale, a real-life Atlantis whispered about in hushed tones. Then, in the late 1980s, archaeologists made a discovery that transformed myth into fact. Beneath layers of sediment near the modern village of Meadows, they uncovered fragments of pottery, coins, and the remains of buildings, all buried under nearly 10 feet of coastal deposits. The alignment matched ancient descriptions perfectly. Helike hadn't vanished into mythic oblivion. It had been entombed by a catastrophic combination of earthquake and tsunami, its ruins preserved like a time capsule beneath the shifting shoreline. The evidence was undeniable. A sudden tectonic shift had liquefied the soft delta soil, causing the entire city to sink while a massive wave finished the job. What makes Helike's story so chilling isn't just the scale of destruction, but how abruptly prosperity turned to ruin. This was no backwater. It was a powerful member of the Achaean League, rich from trade and home to a famous sanctuary of Poseidon. Its coins bore the god's likeness, a cruel irony given the legends of his wrath. Excavations reveal a city frozen in its final moments, cooking pots still perched on hearths, loom weights scattered where they fell, and skeletons curled in protective poses. These aren't just artifacts, they're snapshots of ordinary life interrupted in an instant. Modern geologists now recognize Helike as a textbook example of subsidence, where land sinks rapidly due to seismic activity. But the implications go far beyond one ancient tragedy. Similar conditions exist along coastlines worldwide, from the Mediterranean to the Pacific Rim. Could Santorini's legendary eruption have swallowed cities we've yet to find? Might the fabled Breton city of Wise, said to have drowned when its protective gates were left open, be waiting beneath the sands of France's Bay of Douarnenez? Helike's rediscovery proves that when ancient sources speak of lands lost beneath the waves, we do well to listen. Perhaps the most haunting lesson lies in the parallels to our own world. Like Helike, many modern megacities, from Tokyo to San Francisco, sit atop fault lines, their skyscrapers just as vulnerable to the Earth's whims as Helike's marble temples. The difference is scale, not risk. Walking the quiet fields above Helike's ruins, where wildflowers now grow over what was once a bustling agora, you can't help but wonder, which of today's coastal marvels might someday become the next cautionary tale whispered by future generations? Deep in the cloud forests of southeastern Peru, where mist clings to the mountains like breath on a mirror, a legend persists, one that has lured adventurers to their deaths and inspired expeditions for over 400 years. They call it Paititi, the golden city rumored to dwarf even the riches of Eldorado. Unlike other lost cities that faded from memory, Paititi's story never disappeared. Indigenous Quechua elders still speak of it in hushed tones, describing a place where Inca royalty fled with their treasures after the Spanish conquest, vanishing into the labyrinth of the Andes. What makes Paititi unique isn't just the promise of gold, it's the tantalizing breadcrumbs left behind. In the 1600s, a missionary named Andrés López wrote of a sprawling city hidden beyond the Vilcabamba Range, its temples glittering like the sun. Then there's the infamous map of Paititi, a 17th-century Jesuit document allegedly showing a fortress hidden between two rivers, guarded by waterfalls. For centuries, skeptics dismissed it as fantasy until satellite imagery revealed terraced ruins in that exact geological formation, near the modern border of Peru and Brazil. Recent discoveries have only deepened the mystery. In 2010, a team found a massive ceremonial platform near the Mamiria River, its stonework matching Inca techniques. Nearby caves yielded pottery shards etched with symbols resembling the Inca sun god in Tai. Even more compelling are the petroglyphs discovered in the Pucharo region, depicting what some researchers believe is a map to Paititi itself, spirals and staircases pointing toward an uncharted valley. Indigenous Machiginga hunters still avoid the area, speaking of stone houses where voices whisper. But why has Paititi remained so stubbornly hidden? The answer may lie in the landscape itself, the Peruvian Amazon's eyebrow of the jungle, where the Andes drop sharply into rainforest, creates a treacherous no-man's land of landslides and sudden fog. Expeditions have vanished without a trace, their last radio transmissions describing walls of white rock before static swallowed the signal. Some believe the Incas deliberately built Paititi in this deceptive terrain, using natural defenses to guard their last refuge. Others argue the city was never physical at all, that it's a spiritual concept, a metaphor for the Incas' lost paradise. The most haunting clue comes from an unexpected source: genetics. DNA tests on isolated tribes near the Panteacola Mountains reveal markers linking them to Cusco's Inca nobility. Could these be descendants of Paititi's last inhabitants? The search now blends archaeology with ethnography as researchers piece together oral histories and drone surveys. Every overgrown trail, every river-polished stone whispers the same question. Is Paititi the final undiscovered Inca capital, or the most enduring mirage in exploration history? Either way, its legend endures not just as a treasure hunt, but as a testament to how desperately we want some mysteries to stay just beyond our grasp. Emerging from the dense Guatemalan jungle like stone sentinels, the ruins of Tikal tell a story of grandeur and sudden silence. At its peak around 700 CE, this Maya megacity housed over 100,000 people, a bustling metropolis where astronomers tracked Venus with uncanny precision, where ball courts echoed with the thunder of ceremonial games, and where temples soared 200 feet above the canopy. Today, climbing Temple 4's steep steps rewards visitors with an unforgettable view, endless green swallowing plazas and pyramids, a vivid reminder of nature's relentless reclamation. What's most striking about Tikal isn't just its scale, but its sophistication. The Maya engineered their city like a celestial instrument. The grand plaza's layout aligns with solstice sunrises, while Temple 1's shadow falls precisely on the central acropolis during equinoxes. Their reservoirs, lined with waterproof plaster, held millions of gallons of rainwater critical in a region with no rivers. Even their roadways, called Sakpiop, were feats of engineering. Raised limestone causeways that stayed dry during torrential rains, connecting Tikal to distant cities like a spiderweb of trade and diplomacy. Yet for all its brilliance, Tikal's downfall remains one of archaeology's most haunting puzzles. By 900 CE, the city was virtually deserted. No invading armies left scorch marks on its walls, no mass graves hinted at plague. Instead, the clues point to a slow unraveling. Tree ring data from nearby lakes reveals a decades-long drought around the time of collapse, a catastrophe for a society dependent on rainwater. Soil samples show layers of silt in reservoirs, suggesting deforestation eroded the land. Then there's the eerie evidence of social strain. In the final years, Maya nobles crammed their tombs with extravagant jade masks and obsidian mirrors, as if desperately reaffirming their power while the world crumbled. But Tikal's story doesn't end with abandonment. For centuries, its temples stood empty, known only to local Maya who whispered of the place where voices echo. Then, in 1848, a gum collector named Ambrosio Tut stumbled upon ruins so vast he assumed he'd found a legendary Spanish fortress. Archaeologists later uncovered stele stone monuments, with dates that stretched Maya history back further than anyone imagined. One altar depicts a triumphant ruler, Jasor Chan Keawil, standing atop bound captives, proof of Tikal's military might during its rivalry with Calakmul. Another shows a woman, Lady 12 Makor, wielding power in a society often mischaracterized as male-dominated. The real revelation came in the 1960s, when researchers deciphered Maya glyphs and realized Tikal wasn't just a city, it was a protagonist in an epic saga. Inscriptions tell of alliances forged and broken, of dynasties rising and falling across 6 centuries. They describe Star Wars, not Hollywood fantasies, but calculated battles timed to planetary alignments. This wasn't a primitive culture, it was a civilization that mapped time itself, creating a calendar so accurate it's still studied by astronomers today. Walking Tikal's silent plazas now, the air thick with the cries of howler monkeys, you can almost feel the weight of those vanished lives. The stones still bear the marks of craftsmen's tools, the ball court's scoring rings remain intact, and the temple's acoustics still amplify a whisper to a roar. Tikal's greatest lesson might be its humbling duality, a testament to human ingenuity and a warning about the fragility of even the mightiest societies. The Maya didn't vanish, they adapted, their descendants still living among these ruins. But the city's abandonment whispers a timeless truth. No civilization, no matter how advanced, is immune to the forces of nature or to the consequences of its own ambition. Beneath the waves of the Mediterranean, just off the coast of Egypt, lies a city so fantastical it sounds like something from a dream Heracleion. For over 1,000 years, it existed only in fragments of ancient texts, mentioned by historians like Herodotus as a thriving port where Greek merchants mingled with Egyptian priests. Then, in the year 2000, marine archaeologist Frank Gaudio made a discovery that stunned the world. His team's sonar scans revealed colossal statues, towering temples, and even the remnants of ships, all resting on the seabed as if frozen in time. The city hadn't been destroyed, it had been swallowed whole by the sea, preserved in a watery tomb with eerie perfection. Diving into Heracleon's ruins feels like stepping into a snapshot of the ancient world. A 17-foot-tall statue of the god Happy, the personification of the Nile's fertility, lies half buried in sediment, his stone face still serene. Nearby, a black granite slab bears the inscription of Pharaoh Nectanebo I, its hieroglyphs crisp despite centuries underwater. But the most haunting finds are the everyday objects: gold coins spilled from a merchant's purse, bronze ceremonial bowls, and delicate jewelry that once adorned wealthy traders' wives. These aren't just artifacts, they're intimate glimpses into lives interrupted by catastrophe. How did such a powerful city vanish? The answer lies in the very ground it was built upon. Heracleion stood on unstable delta silt, its grand structures essentially floating on waterlogged soil. When an earthquake struck around the 8th century CE, the ground liquefied, causing buildings to tilt and sink in a matter of hours. Tsunamis likely followed, dragging the city into the sea. But the tragedy became archaeology's gift. The saltwater and lack of oxygen created an environment where wood, fabric, and even food remnants survived intact. A ship's hull, complete with its cargo of ceramic jars, looks as if it could set sail tomorrow. What makes Heracleion extraordinary isn't just its preservation, but its role in history. This was the gateway between Egypt and the Mediterranean world, where Cleopatra might have walked during her visits to the Temple of Ammon. The city's harbors bristled with ships carrying grain, papyrus, and incense, while its markets buzzed with Greek, Phoenician, and Egyptian tongues. A recovered stele, a stone decree, confirms Heracleon's importance. It records the taxes Greek merchants paid to Egyptian officials, proving the city was a linchpin of ancient globalization. Yet Heracleon's rediscovery also raises provocative questions. If a city this significant could vanish from memory for a millennium, what other metropolises lie hidden beneath the waves? From the sunken Roman town of Baiae off Italy's coast to the possible ruins off Cuba's shoreline glimpsed in sonar scans, the oceans are Earth's last great frontier for lost cities. Every artifact hauled from Heracleon's depths whispers the same truth. History isn't just written on land. It's waiting in the silent darkness below, where the sea guards its secrets with patient indifference. Rising from the golden savanna of southern Africa, the stone walls of Great Zimbabwe curve and climb in elegant, gravity-defying patterns. A masterpiece of engineering that once anchored a kingdom stretching from the Limpopo River to the Indian Ocean. At its height between the 11th and 15th centuries, this was no isolated outpost. It was the nerve center of a trading empire dealing in gold, ivory, and exotic goods from as far away as China and Persia. The scale is staggering. The great enclosure's outer wall alone stretches 800 feet, built without mortar yet standing centuries later. Its granite bricks fitted together so precisely you couldn't slide a knife between them. But for generations, European explorers couldn't, or wouldn't believe Africans engineered such sophistication. When German geologist Karl Moch first documented the ruins in 1871, he insisted they must be the work of Phoenicians or the biblical Queen of Sheba. Colonial officials later promoted the myth of a lost white civilization, even planting fake artifacts to support their claims. It wasn't until archaeologist Gertrude Catton Thompson's meticulous 1930s excavations that the truth became undeniable. The pottery styles, construction techniques, and oral histories all pointed to one conclusion: Great Zimbabwe was unmistakably African. The real intrigue lies in how this city thrived. Unlike Egypt's Nile or Mesopotamia's Tigris and Euphrates, Zimbabwe had no major river. Its secret, a genius understanding of water management. Archaeologists found over 20 reservoirs carved into the bedrock, channeling seasonal rains to sustain crops and livestock. The city's elite lived atop a granite hill, their dwellings strategically placed to catch cool breezes, while the valley below bustled with artisans crafting gold jewelry and soapstone birds, icons of spiritual power still emblazoned on Zimbabwe's flag today. Then, around 1450, something shifted. The gold trade that fueled Zimbabwe's prosperity began to falter as new routes emerged along Africa's Swahili coast. Soil samples reveal signs of overgrazing, hinting at ecological strain, but the most poignant clues come from the ruins themselves. In the final layers, precious imports like Persian glass and Chinese porcelain vanish, replaced by cruder local goods. The elite compounds show signs of hasty abandonment, half-finished carvings, valuable items left behind. Unlike cities sacked by invaders, Great Zimbabwe seems to have unraveled from within, its people dispersing slowly, taking their knowledge with them. Today, walking through the labyrinthine passages of the hill complex, you can still feel the echoes of its creator's ambition. The walls curve inward like a whispered secret, designed to amplify voices from the ruler's platform, an ancient sound system projecting authority. Nearby, a series of narrow, winding passages suggest ritual spaces where initiates might have undergone spiritual trials. Great Zimbabwe wasn't just a city of stone. It was a carefully orchestrated stage for power, faith, and commerce. What lingers most isn't just the mystery of its decline, but the resilience of its legacy. Despite colonial attempts to erase its origins, Great Zimbabwe endures as proof of Africa's pre-colonial ingenuity. The very name Zimbabwe derives from the Shona phrase, Dizimbadizie Mabwe, houses of stone. Those stones still stand, not as ruins, but as rebuttals to every myth that ever denied Africa's place in the architectural pantheon of civilizations. The wind whistling through their gaps carries an unspoken challenge: to listen, finally, to the truths they've been whispering for 600 years. Climbing the final steps to Sigiriya's summit feels like stepping onto the set of an epic fantasy, except this isn't CGI. It's real. 1,000 feet above the Sri Lankan jungle, the ruins of a palace cling to the top of a sheer volcanic plug, its brick walls and terraces defying gravity. But the true marvel isn't just the location, it's the artistry. Halfway up the cliff face, sheltered under a natural overhang, vibrant frescoes of women float against the rock, their golden skin and jeweled headdresses still glowing after 15 centuries. Local lore claims they're celestial nymphs or the concubines of King Kashiapa, the monarch who transformed this rock into a fortress in the 5th century. But look closer, their eyes follow you as you ascend, an intentional trick of perspective that makes the paintings feel alive. Sigiriya's engineering is just as breathtaking. The original entrance was through a gargantuan lion's mouth. Only the massive paws remain today, carved from the rock itself. Beyond them, a vertigo-inducing staircase climbs alongside what was once the mirror wall, a polished surface so flawless that Kashiapa could supposedly see his reflection as he walked. The wall's smooth plaster still bears graffiti from over a millennium of visitors, including 8th century poets marveling at the frescoes. Then there's the water gardens at the base, a hydraulic masterpiece with underground channels that fed fountains, pools, and even a moat, all designed to function without pumps, relying solely on gravity and pressure. So why build here? The answer might lie in Cassiopeia's troubled reign. After seizing power by allegedly entombing his father alive, he needed a stronghold no army could storm. Sigiria's cliffs provided natural defenses, while its height offered unobstructed views of approaching enemies. But there's another layer. In Buddhist cosmology, Mount Meru is the axis of the universe, and by carving his palace atop this solitary pillar of rock, Cassiopea may have been casting himself as a god-king, his home a literal bridge between earth and heaven. The frescoes, with their otherworldly beauty, reinforce this symbolism, turning the climb into a spiritual ascent. Yet for all its grandeur, Sigiria was occupied for barely 2 decades. After Cassiopeia's defeat in battle, legend says he was abandoned by his army when he turned his war elephant away from the fight. The site became a monastery, then faded into obscurity. The jungle swallowed it until British explorers stumbled upon the ruins in the 1800s. Today, standing on the summit at sunset, with the wind whipping through the ruins and the plains stretching endlessly below, you can almost hear the echoes of a king who dared to build his dream on the edge of impossibility. Sigiria isn't just a fortress or a palace, it's a monument to the audacity of human vision. A place where power, art, and engineering collided to create something that still defies belief. Rising like a mirage from the sands of Syria, the ruins of Palmyra tell a story of crossroads, not just of trade routes, but of empires, cultures, and ideas. 2,000 years ago, this wasn't just a city, it was a dazzling fusion of worlds. Roman colonnades stretched alongside Persian-inspired temples, while merchants haggled over silk from China and spices from India in the shadow of ornate tombs. Palmyra thrived because it mastered the art of in-betweenness, a desert oasis where east and west didn't just meet, they danced. The city's very layout reflects this duality. Its grand avenue of columns, lined with towering Corinthian pillars, leads to the Temple of Bel, a sanctuary adorned with Mesopotamian motifs where Roman soldiers once prayed alongside local priests. But Palmyra's true genius lay in its people. Take Zenobia, the warrior queen who defied Rome itself. In the 3rd century, she transformed the city into the capital of a short-lived but audacious empire, stretching from Egypt to Turkey. Her court blended Greek philosophy with Arab traditions, and her ambition to rival Rome was etched into every stone. The Pomerans didn't just borrow from their neighbors, they remixed cultures into something entirely their own. Even their language, a unique script blending Aramaic and Greek, symbolized this synthesis. Tragically, modern conflict has left deep scars. In 2015, militants targeted Palmyra's most iconic structures, reducing the Temple of Bel to rubble and beheading the 83-year-old archaeologist who devoted his life to its study. The destruction felt like a wound to humanity itself, but the story doesn't end there. Using 3D scans, archival photos, and surviving fragments, teams are now piecing the city back together, stone by stone. A Swiss project has recreated the Arch of Triumph in marble dust and resin, while Syrian archaeologists risk their lives to hide artifacts before militants can loot them. What makes Palmyra's legacy so enduring isn't just its stones, but its spirit. This was a city built on adaptability, where difference wasn't just tolerated, it was the foundation of greatness. Walking through its ruins today, the wind carries whispers of caravans and poets, of a place that refused to choose between worlds. The broken columns and patched-up walls stand as a testament to resilience, proving that while bombs can shatter monuments, they can't erase the ideas that built them. Palmyra reminds us that cultural heritage isn't a relic. It's a living conversation between past and future, one that refuses to be silenced. Dawn breaks over Angkor Wat, and for a fleeting moment, the 5 lotus-shaped towers glow as if carved from molten gold. This isn't just a temple, it's the heart of an empire. At its peak in the 12th century, the Angkor complex sprawled across nearly 400 square miles, making it the most extensive urban hub the world had seen before the Industrial Revolution. But what's truly staggering isn't just its size, it's the audacity of its design. The Khmer engineers didn't merely adapt to their environment, they bent it to their will. A network of reservoirs, canals, and moats so precise it functioned like a hydraulic lung, breathing water across the landscape to sustain over 1 million people in a region where monsoons and droughts dueled for dominance. The genius of Angkor lies in its contradictions. Take the Temple of Ta Prohm, where silk cotton trees twist through stone corridors like giant serpents. These roots aren't invaders, they're collaborators, holding the ruins together even as they appear to consume them. Then there's the Bayon, its 200 stone faces smiling enigmatically from every angle, a silent chorus of kings or bodhisattvas watching over a kingdom that blended Hindu cosmology with Buddhist grace. Every bas-relief tells a story. Celestial dancers frozen mid-twirl, naval battles teeming with carved warriors, even a detailed depiction of a kitchen scene where fish roast over open flames. This wasn't just sacred art, it was a mirror held up to daily life in an empire that stretched from Vietnam to Myanmar. Yet for all its grandeur, Angkor's fall reads like a slow-motion unraveling. Tree rings from the region tell a grim tale, decades of drought in the 14th century, punctuated by catastrophic floods that choked the canals with silt. Soil samples reveal something even darker, the fingerprints of deforestation. To feed their kilns and build their monuments, the Khmer likely stripped the hills bare, triggering erosion that crippled their waterworks. Then came the final blows, invasions by the rival Ayutthaya kingdom, siphoning wealth and splintering political unity. By the time Portuguese missionaries stumbled upon the ruins in the 16th century, the jungle had already begun its reclamation, vines stitching a green shroud over a civilization that had once tamed the elements. But here's the twist: Angkor never truly died. Unlike ghost cities that vanished without a trace, this place lived on in the rituals of local communities who never forgot its sacred role. Even during its so-called abandonment, monks tended its shrines and pilgrims left offerings at moss-covered altars. Modern research confirms the Khmer didn't just flee, they adapted, migrating toward emerging trade hubs while maintaining spiritual ties to the old capital. The stones whisper this continuity. 20th century bullet scars from Cambodia's civil war pockmark the same walls where 8th century artisans carved prayers. What lingers today isn't just a cautionary tale about environmental overreach or imperial hubris. Angkor's legacy is a masterclass in resilience. Its aqueducts and barrays inspired modern hydrologists tackling water scarcity. Its temple art fuels global fascination, drawing millions who come not just to see ruins, but to witness a living dialogue between nature and human ambition. As the sun sets over the moat, turning the water to liquid bronze, you realize Angkor's true lesson. Greatness isn't measured by how long a civilization lasts, but by how stubbornly its light refuses to fade. High in the rain shadow of the Himalayas, where the air grows thin and the wind carves sandstone into surreal shapes, lies a kingdom forgotten by time. Mustang, or Lo Manthang as locals call it, clings to cliffsides at nearly 13,000 feet, its whitewashed monasteries and honeycomb cave dwellings blending into the rock like natural formations. This isn't just a remote outpost, it's a time capsule. For centuries, the Tibetan-influenced kingdom of Lo thrived here, its people trading salt, wool, and Buddhism along the ancient Kali-Gandaki route between India and Tibet. The region's isolation was its armor while invaders and modernization swept through the valleys below. Mustang's traditions remained frozen in amber. Step inside one of the cliffside caves, and you'll find walls adorned with murals so vivid they seem painted yesterday. 11th century depictions of lotus-bearing bodhisattvas share space with swirling mandalas, their colors preserved by the dry, high-altitude air. But the real revelation came when archaeologists began excavating these caves in the early 2000s. Beneath layers of soot and debris, they uncovered human remains dating back 3,000 years, proof that Mustang's story began long before Buddhism arrived. Even more astonishing were the artifacts: fragments of silk from China, turquoise from Persia, and silver coins minted in Constantinople. This wasn't some isolated mountain enclave, it was a cosmopolitan hub where cultures collided. The kingdom's golden age came in the 15th century, when warrior King Aim-Pal unified the region and built the walled capital of Lo Manthang. His palace still stands today, its towering mud-brick walls enclosing labyrinthine chapels filled with golden statues and illuminated manuscripts. Local lore claims the palace was designed as a mandala, a sacred blueprint of the cosmos with the king as its living deity. Yet Mustang's true wealth wasn't in gold or power, it was in knowledge. The region's monasteries became sanctuaries for Buddhist texts during China's Cultural Revolution, preserving scriptures that might otherwise have been lost. Modern technology is now peeling back layers of mystery. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed hidden chambers beneath cave floors, while carbon dating of wooden lintels suggests some structures predate recorded history. Perhaps the most poignant discovery came in 2007, when researchers found a trove of manuscripts in a sealed cave. Among them was a medical treatise describing surgical techniques and herbal remedies, evidence of an advanced understanding of healing in one of Earth's most inhospitable environments. What makes Mustang extraordinary isn't just its past, but its precarious present. Climate change is melting the glaciers that feed its springs, while younger generations drift toward Nepal's cities. Yet the kingdom endures. Every summer, the Tiji festival transforms Lo Manthang into a whirlwind of masked dancers and chanting monks, reenacting an ancient battle against demons. The rituals haven't changed in 600 years, their rhythms echoing through the same cobbled streets where traders once haggled over Himalayan salt. Mustang's cliffs may be eroding, but its stories of resilience, exchange, and spiritual defiance are only now being heard. Carved into the volcanic cliffs of Maharashtra, the Ellora caves don't just occupy the earth, they defy it. 34 monasteries, temples, and shrines stretch over a mile of basalt rock, each one painstakingly hollowed from the top down, as if sculptors were peeling back stone to reveal the sacred spaces hidden within. Unlike conventional buildings that rise from the ground, Ellora's structures were born from subtraction, their creators working with chisels and hammers to carve not just walls, but entire multi-story complexes complete with pillars, balconies, and even drainage systems. The most astonishing of these is the Kailasa Temple, a monolith so massive it's twice the area of the Parthenon and taller than a 7-story building, all cut from a single rock. The precision here borders on the supernatural. Pillars fluted like ancient Greek columns stand alongside statues so finely detailed you can see the drape of a goddess's sari or the curl of a lion's mane. In the Vishvakarma cave, sunlight slices through a carved window to illuminate a 15-foot Buddha at precisely midday during the equinox, a feat requiring astronomical knowledge modern engineers would struggle to replicate without computers. But how no blueprints survive, no scaffolding holes mar the ceilings, and no surviving tools from the period seem capable of such finesse. Some historians speculate workers used a grid system, marking the cliff face with strings and pigments to map out each chisel stroke. Others point to the rock's unique composition, basalt soft enough to carve when freshly exposed but hardening over time into a durable shell. Ellora's true genius lies in its pluralism. Here, Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain traditions coexist within walking distance, their caves reflecting distinct philosophies through stone. The Buddhist viharas feature serene meditation halls and cells for monks, their simplicity a stark contrast to the Hindu cave's dynamism, where walls ripple with scenes of Shiva dancing the cosmos into existence or Vishnu lounging on the serpent of eternity. In Cave 30, Jain artisans carved delicate lotus blossoms and a shrine to Mahavira, their restraint in ornament mirroring the faith's emphasis on asceticism. This wasn't just tolerance, it was a deliberate conversation in rock, a testament to an era when spiritual diversity fueled artistic innovation. Today, the caves hum with more than just tourist whispers. Pilgrims still press their foreheads to the feet of a carved Ganesh, leaving saffron and jasmine in offering. Archaeologists, meanwhile, puzzle over the logistical nightmares the builders overcame. Estimates suggest removing the Kailasa temple's 200,000 tons of rock would have taken 7,000 laborers working 12-hour days for over 30 years, and that's before the intricate carving began. The scale suggests patronage from powerful rulers like the Rashtrakuta dynasty, but even they left no inscriptions claiming credit. Perhaps that's the point. Ellora wasn't meant to glorify kings. It was a love letter to the divine, written in stone by hands whose names we'll never know, their tools long rusted into dust but their vision eternal. Rising from the floodplains of the Mississippi like an earthen cathedral, Cahokia's Monk's Mound dominates the landscape even today, a colossal pyramid of packed soil covering 14 acres at its base. At its peak around 1100 CE, this wasn't just the heart of a city, it was the nucleus of a cultural explosion. Over 120 mounds sprawled across 6 square miles, supporting a metropolis of 20,000 people, a population unmatched in North America for 5 centuries. The Grand Plaza, larger than 35 football fields, hosted ceremonial games witnessed by thousands, while copper workshops and astronomical observatories hinted at a society far more intricate than the simple mound builders label Europeans later imposed. What's most astonishing isn't just Cahokia's scale, but its urban planning. The city's layout mirrored cosmic principles, with mounds aligned to solstice sunrises and the maximum moonrise of the 18.6-year lunar cycle. Artifacts reveal trade networks stretching from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, obsidian from Wyoming, conch shells from Florida, even macaw feathers from Mesoamerica. Then there's Woodhenge, a circle of cedar posts used as a solar calendar, where priests likely marked the equinoxes by watching the sun rise over Monk's Mound. This wasn't a scattered village. It was a meticulously orchestrated theocracy where earth, sky, and society intertwined. Yet by 1400, Cahokia stood empty. The clues to its collapse lie in the dirt itself. Core samples from nearby lakes tell a grim story. Decades of deforestation triggered catastrophic erosion, choking the lifeblood of Cahokia's agriculture, the fertile river bottom soils. Skeletal remains from the final years show telltale signs of malnutrition, particularly among children. Then there's the chilling evidence of social fracture. In Mound 72, archaeologists uncovered a mass burial of 53 young women, their bones showing signs of ritual sacrifice, a desperate act that suggests a society unraveling under existential stress. But Cahokia's story isn't just one of decline. Recent discoveries complicate the narrative. At the Audrey North site, just miles from the main city, evidence suggests a splinter group thrived for generations after the urban core's abandonment, adapting to changing conditions with smaller, sustainable settlements. The people didn't vanish, they transformed. This revelation mirrors modern resilience strategies when faced with climate change or resource depletion. Societies don't always collapse. Sometimes they decentralize, innovate, or migrate. What lingers most powerfully is Cahokia's silent rebuttal to outdated stereotypes. These weren't nomadic hunter-gatherers. They were city planners, astronomers, and diplomats whose influence reshaped a continent. The mounds still stand not as relics of a lost people, but as monuments to indigenous ingenuity that refused to be erased, walking their slopes today with the wind carrying echoes of ancient chants and the distant skyline of modern St. Louis visible on the horizon. You realize Cahokia's true legacy isn't in its abandonment, it's in the enduring proof that complexity flourished here long before European ships appeared on the horizon. The Earth remembers what history books once forgot. Beneath the shifting sands and silt of the Mediterranean, just off Egypt's northern coast, lies a city that once pulsed with the energy of three ancient worlds. Thonis Heracleion, known by both its Egyptian and Greek names, wasn't just a port. It was a cultural crossroads where pharaohs greeted Greek merchants, where Egyptian priests bartered with Phoenician sailors, and where the gods of multiple pantheons watched over a harbor so vital it served as the mandatory checkpoint for all trade entering the Nile Delta. For centuries, this aquatic metropolis thrived as the Mediterranean's Grand Bazaar, its docks bristling with ships carrying everything from Nubian gold to Athenian olive oil. Then, around the 8th century CE, the earth shuddered, the sea surged, and the city vanished beneath the waves, taking its secrets with it. The rediscovery of Thonis Heracleion in the year 2000 reads like something from an adventure novel. Marine archaeologist Frank Godio's team, combing the Abu Qir Bay with magnetometers, suddenly spotted anomalies in the seabed too precise to be natural. Divers descended into the murky depths, their hands brushing against the first artifacts in over a millennium. A colossal red granite statue of the god Happy, personification of the Nile's abundance, lying face down as if bowing to the sea. Nearby, a 7-foot-tall stele, inscribed stone slab stood perfectly preserved, its hieroglyphs and Greek text mirroring each other, a bilingual decree confirming the city's dual identity. But the real revelation came as the excavation expanded. This wasn't just a sunken settlement, it was a time capsule of cultural fusion. A gold pendant depicted Isis wearing the Hellenic hairstyle of Aphrodite. A Phoenician-style figurine of Baal stood beside an Egyptian sacred boat. Even the mundane spoke volumes. Athenian coins were struck with the marks of Egyptian mints, proving currencies were exchanged and adapted like languages. What doomed Thonis Heracleion? The answer lies in the very ground it was built upon. The city stood on unstable clay and silt, its grand temples and harbors essentially floating on waterlogged soil. When a series of earthquakes struck, possibly triggered by the same tectonic shifts that toppled Alexandria's lighthouse, the ground liquefied. Buildings tilted and slid into the sea, their weight accelerating the collapse. Rising sea levels, a slow but relentless force, finished the job, swallowing the last remnants over decades. Yet this tragedy became archaeology's gift. The same sediments that entombed the city preserved its artifacts with eerie perfection. Wooden votive offerings, rarely surviving in terrestrial sites, remained intact. Delicate jewelry lay where it fell, its gold still gleaming under layers of salt crust. Even organic materials, papyrus scrolls, woven baskets, fruit seeds, endured in the oxygen-deprived depths, offering snapshots of daily life frozen in time. The implications of these finds ripple far beyond a single city. Thonis Heracleon's multicultural artifacts rewrite the narrative of ancient Mediterranean trade. The discovery of Phoenician anchors and Greek pottery alongside Egyptian amulets proves this was no passive port. It was an active blender of traditions, where artisans borrowed motifs and merchants swapped not just goods but ideas. A recovered ceremonial barge, its hull packed with ritual objects, suggests the city hosted hybrid religious festivals, perhaps syncretizing the Osiris mysteries with Greek rites. Even the city's layout reflects this harmony. Egyptian temples stood shoulder to shoulder with Greek sanctuaries, their courtyards linked by processional avenues designed to accommodate diverse rituals. Perhaps most poignant is what Thonis Heracleion tells us about resilience. As the waters rose, its inhabitants didn't flee immediately. Archaeologists found evidence of makeshift repairs, patched walls, relocated statues suggesting generations adapted to the encroaching sea before finally abandoning their home. Today, the ruins lie suspended between two worlds, much as the city once did. Fish dart through the remains of a temple pylon, its carved scenes of Pharaoh Nectanebo are now watched by curious groupers. A stone slab inscribed with customs duties, once nailed to a bustling dock, rests silently under meters of water, its bureaucratic urgency softened by centuries of coral growth. Thonis Heracleon's legacy isn't just its tragic end, but its vibrant life, a reminder that even the mightiest hubs of human connection are fleeting, and that the sea, which once connected this city to the world, ultimately became its keeper. Perched high in the alcoves of southwestern Colorado's canyon walls, the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde cling to the rock like swallows' nests, precarious, purposeful, and utterly mesmerizing. These aren't just shelters, they're masterpieces of ancient engineering, with multi-story towers wedged into sandstone overhangs and circular kivas carved into the earth below. The ancestral Puebloans who built them between 600 and 1300 CE didn't just adapt to this vertical landscape, they turned it into an architectural advantage. Imagine hauling timber, water, and sandstone bricks up sheer cliff faces using nothing but handholds and ropes, then constructing homes that stayed cool in summer and trapped warmth in winter. The effort defies logic until you consider what these heights offered. Defense was undoubtedly a factor. Tucked beneath rocky brows, villages like Cliff Palace and Balcony House were nearly invisible from the canyon floor. Attackers would have faced a deadly climb under a hail of stones or arrows, but there's more to the story. The overhangs acted as natural roofs, shielding residents from snow and scorching sun. In a land where water was scarce, the cliff faces channeled precious runoff into collection basins, while the elevation kept food stores safe from rodents and floods. Then there's the spiritual dimension. For the Puebloans, cliffs weren't just practical, they were sacred. Alcoves symbolized the womb of the earth, and building within them may have been an act of communion with the forces that sustained life. The real enigma isn't why they built here, but why they left. Around 1300 CE, every cliff dwelling in Mesa Verde was abandoned. The evidence hints at a slow unraveling. Tree rings show a decades-long drought, while middens reveal diets shifting from corn to less nutritious wild plants. But unlike other sites marked by violence, Mesa Verde's exits seem orderly, tools and pottery carefully placed, doorways sealed. Some researchers believe the Puebloans migrated south, joining communities like those at Choco Canyon or Hopi Mesas, carrying their knowledge with them. Others speculate that social tensions or dwindling resources made the cliffs unsustainable. What's certain is that they didn't vanish. Their descendants still live in the Southwest, preserving traditions that echo in these silent stone rooms. Walking the narrow trails to Cliff Palace today, with ravens wheeling overhead and the scent of pinyon pine thick in the air, you can almost hear the echoes of generations who thrived here. A handprint smudged in plaster, a grinding stone worn smooth by cornmeal, a petroglyph of a spiral marking solstice sunlight. These aren't just artifacts. They're fragments of a living conversation between people and place, a testament to the ingenuity required to not just survive but flourish in a world of vertical limits. Mesa Verde's greatest lesson might be its quiet insistence that home isn't always where the land is easiest, but where it speaks to the soul. Imagine a harbor so rich that Roman merchants braved monsoons to reach it, a place where black pepper was worth its weight in gold and the air smelled of cinnamon, cardamom, and distant empires. This was Muziris, India's gateway to the ancient world, a port so legendary that Roman historians wrote of its warehouses overflowing with silk, pearls, and exotic woods. Ships from Egypt, Arabia, and Mesopotamia jostled in its waters, their hulls packed with wine, glassware, and silver coins destined for the courts of Tamil kings. Then, around 1340 CE, the city simply disappeared, swallowed by floods so violent they rewrote the landscape. For centuries, Muziris existed only in fragments of parchment and travelers' tales, until a monsoon in 2013 washed away the soil near Kerala's Pattanam village and revealed pottery shards that would rewrite history. What emerged from the mud was a time capsule of globalization. Roman amphorae, their insides stained with wine residue, lay beside Mesopotamian lapis lazuli and Yemeni frankincense. A brick wharf stretched into what was once the riverbank, its mooring stones grooved from centuries of ropes. Most telling were the coins, a hoard of Roman denarii bearing the faces of emperors from Augustus to Nero, their edges worn smooth by countless hands. These weren't just trade goods, they were receipts from a vanished economic superhighway. Ancient records describe Muziris as the first emporium of India, where customs duties alone filled the Roman treasury with 50 million sesterces annually, enough to fund an entire legion for a year. The real revelation wasn't just the luxury items, but the everyday ones. Tamil Brahmi script etched onto pottery matched descriptions of tax records mentioned in Greco-Roman texts. Fish bones from the Arabian Gulf and grape seeds from the Mediterranean proved the city's diet was as cosmopolitan as its merchants. Even the bricks told a story, some stamped with the marks of Roman workshops, suggesting foreign engineers may have helped build the port's infrastructure. This wasn't a one-way trade route. It was a cultural exchange where Indian teak reinforced Roman bathhouses, and Tamil poets sang of Yavana, Greek soldiers guarding local kings. Then came the flood. Geological cores drilled near Pattanam show a catastrophic layer of silt dating to the 14th century sediment, deposits so thick they suggest a tsunami or a sudden shift in the Periyar River's course. Local folklore speaks of the sea drinking the city, a memory preserved in Theyyam rituals where dancers embody the spirits of drowned merchants. The disaster didn't just erase buildings, it severed a lifeline. Roman records after 1340 CE abruptly stop mentioning Muziris, and Mediterranean pepper prices skyrocketed, triggering economic shockwaves as far as Europe. Yet Muziris' legacy lingers in unexpected ways. The port's multicultural DNA survives in Kerala's Syrian Christian community, descendants of traders who settled here 2,000 years ago. Their churches still use brass lamps modeled after Roman designs, and their liturgy blends Aramaic hymns with Tamil cadences. Even the region's cuisine, black pepper-infused stews, fermented fish sauces resembling Roman garum hints at flavors that once crossed oceans. The stones of Muziris may lie buried, but its spirit endures in the rhythms of a coastline that never forgot its role as the world's first global marketplace. High above the swirling mists of the Urubamba Valley, Machu Picchu clings to a narrow ridge like a dream half-remembered. This isn't just a city on a mountain, it's a symphony in stone where every terrace, temple, and staircase harmonizes with the contours of the Andes. The Incas didn't merely build here, they performed a kind of architectural alchemy, transforming jagged peaks and plunging cliffs into a sanctuary so precise that its walls still fit together without mortar, their seams tighter than a blade of grass. Yet for all its fame, Machu Picchu guards its secrets fiercely. Was this a retreat for emperors, a pilgrimage site for sun worshippers, or perhaps something far more enigmatic? The royal estate theory paints Pachacuti, the ninth Inca ruler, as the visionary behind Machu Picchu's creation. His imperial style echoes in the polished granite of the Temple of the Sun, where trapezoidal windows frame the June solstice sunrise with celestial accuracy. Nearby, the so-called royal quarters boast niches designed to hold golden effigies and private baths fed by spring water, luxuries befitting a sovereign's mountain getaway. But then there's the Intihuatana stone, a carved granite protrusion often called the hitching post of the sun. During equinoxes, the pillar casts no shadow at noon, suggesting a function beyond mere ornamentation. Was this the work of astronomer priests tracking cosmic cycles to guide planting and harvest? Archaeologists have uncovered even stranger clues. Deep within the complex lies a cave lined with ceremonial pottery and skeletal remains, its entrance shaped to mimic the condor, a sacred messenger between worlds. The Incas revered mountains as living deities, or apus, and Machu Picchu's alignment with neighboring peaks like Huayna Picchu and Salcante suggests a sacred geography. Perhaps this was less a city and more a vast ritual instrument, where the very act of ascending its staircases mirrored the journey to the heavens. Then there's the matter of logistics. How did workers haul 20-ton stones up vertiginous slopes without wheels or draft animals? The answer lies in the Inca road system, a network of cables and ramps woven like spider silk across the mountains. But the greater mystery is why choose such an inaccessible spot. Recent soil studies reveal Machu Picchu sits atop intersecting fault lines, fractures in the earth that provided natural stone quarries and, crucially, drainage. When torrential rains pound the Andes, the city's 500 terraces and 200 channels transform into a hydraulic masterpiece, funneling water away with engineering so advanced it still functions flawlessly today. Machu Picchu's abandonment only deepens the intrigue. Unlike other Inca sites ravaged by Spanish conquistadors, this citadel shows no signs of conflict. Instead, it seems to have been quietly evacuated, its thatched roofs left to decay while the stones endured. Some theorize a smallpox pandemic reached these heights before the invaders did, leaving the city to be reclaimed by orchids and spectacled bears. Others believe it was always intended as a temporary sanctuary, a place where the earthly and divine briefly touched before the cycle moved on. Standing at sunrise on the watchman's hut, as golden light spills over the terraces like liquid over steps, you realize Machu Picchu's true genius. It isn't just a testament to what the Incas built, but to how they thought. Here, architecture and nature aren't adversaries, they're collaborators. The mountain isn't a foundation, it's the heart of the design. And that's the lesson etched into every stone. True mastery isn't conquering the impossible, but listening to it, then answering in kind. Baked into the arid plains of Pakistan's Sindh region, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro whisper secrets of a civilization that mastered urban living 4,000 years before skyscrapers. Walking its gridded streets today, you're treading the world's first meticulously planned city, a metropolis where every brick, drain, and alleyway followed a blueprint so advanced it rivals modern engineering. The precision is staggering. Standardized baked bricks cut to identical ratios, multi-story homes with private wells, and a drainage system so sophisticated it put medieval Europe to shame. But what truly stuns archaeologists isn't just the infrastructure, it's the absence. No grand temples, no opulent palaces, no evidence of kings or conquests. Mohenjo-Daro thrived as a society of startling equality, its wealth measured not in gold but in communal ingenuity. Then, around 1900 BC, the lights went out. The city's final layers tell a haunting story. Skeletal remains huddle in streets and homes, some clutching valuables as if fleeing sudden catastrophe. Yet there are no mass graves of war, no scorch marks from invading armies. Instead, the earth itself offers clues. Sediment cores reveal layers of silt, evidence of catastrophic flooding from the nearby Indus River, which may have shifted course abruptly due to tectonic activity. Other theories point to climate change. Pollen samples show a dramatic shift from wheat to drought-resistant barley in the city's final years. But the most chilling possibility: a slow unraveling. The last dwellings show shoddy repairs, with reused bricks and clogged drains hinting at a society straining against ecological collapse. What makes Mohenjo-Daro's demise so perplexing is how far ahead it was of its time. The Great Bath, a watertight ceremonial pool lined with bitumen, suggests ritual purification practices millennia before Roman baths. Artifacts like standardized weights and seals trace trade networks stretching from Mesopotamia to the Himalayas. Even their script still undeciphered hints at bureaucratic complexity, with tiny inscribed tablets possibly tracking taxes or shipments. This wasn't just a city, it was the beating heart of the Indus Valley civilization, a culture that spanned over 1 million square kilometers, yet left no evidence of warfare for 700 years. The real mystery isn't why Mohenjo-Daro fell, but how it flourished so brilliantly without the trappings we associate with early empires. No ziggurats, no pharaohs, just a quiet revolution in collective living, where fire altars in every home suggest domestic spirituality, and whimsical terracotta figurines reveal a people who cherished play as much as progress. Perhaps that's the most unsettling lesson of all, that a society can reach astonishing heights without monuments to ego, only to vanish beneath the silt, leaving behind not tales of kings, but the echoes of ordinary lives lived extraordinarily well. For centuries, the tale of Troy lived in the realm of myth, a city of towering walls and doomed love, where Greek heroes clashed under Apollo's gaze and a wooden horse sealed a kingdom's fate. Historians dismissed Homer's Iliad as poetic fancy until a German businessman named Heinrich Schliemann picked up a shovel in 1870. His discovery at Hisarlik, a windswept hill in modern Turkey, would tear down the wall between legend and reality. Layer by layer, Schliemann uncovered not one Troy, but 9 each built atop the ruins of the last, like chapters in a story written in stone and ash. The most striking of these layers, Troy 7, bears scars that mirror Homer's descriptions. Charred bricks and arrowheads cluster near a compromised section of the citadel wall, hinting at a siege. But it's the smaller details that truly astonish. A cache of bronze axes found near the western gate echoes Homer's well-built Troy, where the Simwa and Scamander rivers meet. Even the geography aligns. The ancient coastline, now silted over, once curled closer to the city, creating the very beaches where Greek ships might have landed. Yet Troy's real magic lies in its resilience. Each destruction, whether by earthquake, fire, or war, was followed by rebirth. Troy 6's graceful, sloping walls speak of a wealthy trading hub with ties to the Hittite Empire, while Troy 2's treasure-laden shafts reveal a city rich enough to inspire legends of Priam's gold. The layers weave a tapestry of continuity, a place where cultures overlapped, where Mycenaean pottery sat beside Anatolian idols, proving that even in antiquity, Troy was a bridge between worlds. The city's legacy transcends archaeology. For the ancient Greeks, Troy was both cautionary tale and cultural touchstone. Alexander the Great reportedly slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow. For modern scholars, it's a masterclass in how oral traditions preserve kernels of truth. The Iliad's wide streets and strong towers weren't inventions. They were memories passed down through generations until someone dug deep enough to find them. Standing among Troy's crumbled ramparts today, with the wind carrying whispers of millennia, you realize this isn't just a ruin. It's a testament to the power of stories to outlast empires. The wooden horse may be fiction, but the city it doomed or saved was real all along. Troy's greatest gift isn't just proof that myths can be true, but that sometimes truth needs a poet to keep it alive. From sunken ports swallowed by the sea to jungle-clad temples whispering through the vines, these lost cities stand as monuments to humanity's restless ingenuity. They defy the neat timelines of our history books, revealing civilizations that thrived in places we'd dismiss as uninhabitable, built wonders with tools we'd consider primitive, and vanished leaving puzzles we're still piecing together. Each discovery cracks open another door in our understanding, like the Maya's sprawling garden cities hidden under Guatemala's canopy, or Derinkuyu's underground labyrinths where entire communities outlasted invaders beneath the earth. These aren't just ruins, they're mirrors reflecting our own capacity to adapt, create, and sometimes to overreach. What's truly exhilarating is how much remains uncharted. LiDAR technology peels back forest canopies like layers of an onion, revealing grids of streets and plazas where maps once showed only wilderness. Satellite imagery detects buried walls beneath desert sands, while AI deciphers ancient scripts that have puzzled scholars for centuries. The lost city of Tenya, described by Greek historians as a Trojan refugee colony, was confirmed in 2018 when archaeologists in southern Corinth unearthed its baths and coins. Who's to say what else lies beneath our feet or submerged along forgotten coastlines? The Amazon alone, long written off as a green desert incapable of supporting complex societies, now yields evidence of vast urban networks, forcing us to rethink everything we thought we knew about pre-Columbian life. But beyond the thrill of discovery, these cities offer urgent lessons. Angkor Wat's collapse warns of ecological fragility. Cahokia's mounds speak of social cohesion's power and peril. When we walk the streets of Pompeii or trace the canals of long-drowned Heracleion, we're not just observing the past, we're glimpsing possible futures. The same ingenuity that carved Petra from cliffs or floated Nan Madol on coral reefs now drives our solutions to climate change and overcrowding. History isn't a straight line, it's a spiral echoing patterns we do well to recognize. So here's to the explorers, not just those wielding shovels and drones, but everyone who looks at a misty mountain or a tangled forest and wonders, what if? The next great discovery might be hiding in a farmer's field, a local legend, or a line of poetry scribbled centuries ago. If this journey through forgotten cities has sparked your curiosity, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history's mysteries, and drop a comment below telling us which lost civilization fascinates you most. The past is waiting to be found. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones still buried just beneath the surface.